Welcome back to Weird Reddit 1011. I'm your host, Kristen. I'm thrilled to have you with me as we dive into another set of spine-chilling stories from the depths of Reddit. Your support has been instrumental in keeping this channel alive and thriving, and for that, I'm incredibly grateful. Your likes, comments, shares, and subscriptions not only help me bring more content to you, but also inspire me to work harder and create better. If you're new here, I extend a warm welcome. Please consider subscribing, sharing, and liking our videos. As we delve into today's stories, remember to hit that notification button to stay updated with more otherworldly tales. Now, let's plunge into the mysterious, the unexplained, and the downright bizarre. Our first story is a puzzling tale of a dream that might not have been a dream at all, a dream that potentially saved a family from a robbery. So buckle up and let's dive in. Our first story is from user Happy Green Turtle. After my dad passed away, I remember being in a dream where I woke up in the dream hearing the sound of his voice from downstairs. I jumped out of bed and looked out of my window and saw a dark figure in our garden, and then I heard my dad's voice again, which woke me up for real. Ran downstairs and saw that the back door was left unlocked and opened by my mom, who had fallen asleep on the sofa downstairs. I locked it and went back to bed. Found out the next day that a few of the houses on our street had been robbed that night. Nobody ever believes that it really happened, or they think I had the dream later and just got confused on the order of events. But it 100% happened, and it's the craziest thing that's ever happened to me. I'm really skeptical of the paranormal, don't believe in ghosts or anything, but I cannot make sense of that dream. The second narrative comes from Ham Broth. He recounts an episode from his 7th grade, a casual afternoon around 3:30 or 4 p.m., where he was engrossed in watching post-school cartoon lineup. Being left alone in the house after his father's demise, he was responsible for his own meals, often resorting to microwave popcorn. As he walked from his bedroom to the kitchen, crossing a long hallway connected to the front door, he noticed a figure. This figure, standing halfway down the hallway, resembled a full-grown man but lacked any specific details. It was a dark blue, opaque silhouette with a discernible head and limbs, but devoid of features like hair or facial attributes. Hambroth was not afraid, but rather intrigued, as he found himself locked in a silent stare-off with this entity in the middle of the afternoon. Feeling slightly uneasy, he mentally commanded the figure to go away. A thought so intense it felt as if it were spoken aloud. To his surprise, the figure immediately turned and disappeared into the front door alcove. When he reached the alcove, it was empty, leading him to question his own senses. He then returned to his routine, making popcorn, but the encounter left him puzzled. Hambroth also shared that he had a similar encounter when he was 5 years old. He spotted a blue, featureless figure seated in his favorite recliner while having dinner with his parents. The figure noticed him, got up, and walked through the well. Despite not feeling threatened, Hambroth screamed to alert his parents, who unfortunately didn't turn in time to witness it. He contemplates whether these figures could be his late father's manifestations, expressing a pang of guilt for asking the figure to leave. The next account comes from Veshwolf. Two peculiar incidents in recent times have left him questioning the nature of reality. First, on his drive home from work through an unplanted farmland, he noticed a stick about 3 to 4 feet long, floating and spinning rapidly in the air about 15 feet off the ground. despite his initial assumption that it must be stuck on some wire or object he couldn't see. As he got closer, it became clear there was nothing supporting the stick. It was inexplicably floating and spinning in the air, defying all logic. The second incident occurred at home while doing laundry and getting his daughter ready for bed. As he walked up the stairs and glanced into the master bedroom, he saw something peek from behind the French door. It was about 3 feet tall, with dog or cat-like ears and covered in brown and white fur. They made eye contact for a split second before it ducked behind the door. But when he got to the master bedroom, there was nothing there. Veshwolf admits to suffering from depression and anxiety, but asserts he has no history of hallucinations. This leaves him and us questioning. Were these mere figments of his imagination or glimpses into an unsettling reality? Let's look at a comment from Ghosting Things. This is what I think of whenever I hear about dreams like this or prophetic dreams. Our minds are so much more amazing than we think. I think it's really, really cool that we have the ability to pick up on stuff like that subconsciously and have our minds deliver that information to us in such a meaningful way. The next story is by user Chinowski. I fell out of bed in the middle of the night. I stood up and suddenly I was in the kitchen of the house we lived in 1 year prior. I remember looking out the window to confirm. As I looked around, the house was full of items I didn't recognize, different furniture and different pictures on the walls. I walked down the hallway in the dark and opened the door to my old room. It was my current room, and I went inside, shut the door, and went back to bed. I immediately got back up and opened the door to check, and everything was back to normal. One user commented, "My only explanation is astral projection. Look it up. It's basically where you reach such a deep state of meditation where you have an out-of-body experience. And some people say that they can travel to different places where nobody can see, hear you, kind of like a ghost." One smart ass commented, like a hallucination. That happens when you sleep. If only there was a word for that. Why not just make a normal comment instead of laughing at others? Some people rather react to a person's story than to listen and really see what the writer experienced. Our next journey into the unknown comes from user hand solo arrow 54. As a young child, around 8 to 10 years old, he and his cousins and brother engaged in a playful competition to see who could dig the deepest hole. This occurred in Central America on the Caribbean, where the sun begins to set around 5 p.m. Just as the evening shadows began to creep in, Hand Solo 504 found himself elbow deep in the hole he'd been digging. Suddenly, he experienced something that would stay with him well into adulthood. As he pulled his arm from the hole, a smoky, white hand appeared to follow, reaching out as though it meant to grasp him. This was not a solid entity. It was more of a misty apparition, ethereal and nebulous. Yet it bore the unmistakable shape of a hand. Shocked and surprised, Han Solo 0504 turned to call his cousins and brother, but as he did so, the smoky hand vanished. Now, at the age of 42, Han Solo 0504 cannot explain what he saw that day, but the memory is as vivid as if it occurred just yesterday. What was this spectral hand? A trick of the light? A figment of a child's imagination? Or perhaps something more profound and unexplainable? As we delve deeper into our subconscious, these are the questions we are left to ponder. Our next exploration into the unexplained comes from user Aga Radical, who shared a rather unsettling experience from his childhood. Like many children, our gay radical had an imaginary friend named Sam. He was as real as any other friend to the young Algay radical until he hit the age of 10 and stopped seeing Sam. Fast forward to one evening around 8 p.m. He was in the living room engrossed in his TV show when he heard a voice. It was a child's voice asking him to come and play. Startled, he looked around and his eyes landed on the kitchen table. There, staring back at him, was a child who bore an uncanny resemblance to his imaginary friend, Sam. Time seemed to freeze for a moment, and when it unfroze, the child was gone. He immediately told his mother about the strange occurrence. In response to this story, another user commented that they too had an imaginary friend named Sam, who was always seated at the kitchen table but could never leave it. They stopped seeing him when they were around 8 to 9 years old. This coincidence is quite chilling, isn't it? Another commenter added a psychological perspective, stating that most children develop imaginary friends as a part of their mental growth. They often personify their pets or inanimate objects that can't speak, helping the brain develop context. But was this just a case of psychological development, or was there something more to these unseen companions? Could these imaginary friends be more real than we think? As we continue our journey into the depths of the unexplainable, these are the questions we're left with. As we delve deeper into the mysterious, we come across another intriguing tale from Tweet Terror. A story which, in its own way, is as chilling as it is heartrending. When Tweet Terror was just a toddler, they lived with their grandmother. One unusual morning, they woke up early, feeling strange after dreaming about their great-grandmother. They decided to share this with their grandmother, who, coincidentally, also had an uneasy feeling. She decided to check on her mother, leaving Tweet Terror at home. However, the little one couldn't shake off their gut feeling and decided to follow their grandma. Upon reaching their great-grandmother's house, Tweet Terror was instructed to stay downstairs, but curiosity got the better of them and they sneaked upstairs. They found their great-grandmother in her bedroom, smiling weakly, expressing her love to her daughter before she breathed her last. Tweet Terror felt that it was right to be there, supporting their grandma just as she was there for her mother. It seemed as if their great-grandmother had somehow called them there. It was a moment of shared grief, a moment that, although sad, brought them closer together. In the comment section of this post, another user shared a similar experience. They recounted the story of their preschool friend, Evan, who passed away from an illness. On Christmas Eve, Evan woke up, looked at his brother, and expressed his love before falling back asleep and passing away. These stories make us wonder if there is an unseen force connecting us all. Is it possible that our subconscious mind is more in tune with these forces than we realize as we continue to explore the unexplainable? These are the questions that keep us intrigued. In the realm of the unexplainable, we now turn our attention to a story shared by the best yak ever. Yes, you heard that right, folks. The best yak ever. Sometimes the names alone are enough to pique our curiosity. Anyway, let's get to the story. This particular incident is not a spine-chilling tale, but rather a puzzling glitch in the matrix, if you will. A few years back, our friend here decided to have a taco night. The key to a great taco night, as we all know, is homemade tortillas. The best yak ever had a special frying pan just for that. Upon gathering all the ingredients, they went to fetch the pan from the cupboard. To their surprise, it was nowhere to be found. A thorough search of the house ensued, but it was to no avail. The pan had simply vanished. No signs of a break-in, no other missing items, just the pan. Taco night was inevitably canceled. Fast forward 2 weeks, and lo and behold, the pan was back in its place as if it had never left. As absurd as it sounds, it's a true story. Our friend's pan seemingly blinked out of existence, only to blink right back in. A commenter shared a similar experience of a missing phone which appeared out of nowhere after a frantic search. These stories, as silly as they may sound, make us question if there's more to our reality than meets the eye. As we continue to delve into the mystery, stay tuned for more mind-boggling tales. In our next tale, we are led into the perplexing world of Almost Done Here 74. This story echoes the experience of The Best Yak Ever, but this time it's not a pan that goes missing, it's a set of car keys. On a bustling New Year's Eve in 2001, our protagonist stepped out of a packed, sweltering bar to cool off in their car. After a brief respite, they decided to head back in. But as they stood up, their keys were gone. They searched high and low, inside and out, but the keys were nowhere to be found. A friend had to drive them home to fetch a spare set. The next day, they even tore the car apart in search of the keys, to no avail. 3 months went by with the keys still missing, their absence gnawing at our protagonist's mind. But then, on a day like any other, they took the car to the dealership to fix a window switch. When they returned to pick up the car, there they were, the keys sitting nonchalantly on the front seat. It was as if they'd been on an extended vacation and had decided to return home just then. Our protagonist even questioned the dealership staff, but no one knew where the keys had come from. It's been over 20 years, and the mystery of the vanishing keys still baffles Almost Done Here 74. Just like our friend's pan, these keys seem to have blinked out of existence, only to blink right back in. Stay tuned, folks, as we continue to explore these unexplained glitches in our seemingly solid reality. In this following narrative, we plunge into the eerie experiences of Nymphlotus. This is a story where the unnatural becomes the norm, where the unseen steps into the limelight. The tale begins in the challenging early years of our protagonist's life. The stage is set in a small town where the heavy burden of poverty, loneliness, and despair casts a long, dark shadow over a young Nymphlotus. As a 3rd or 4th grader, they faced a tumultuous life filled with neglect, bullying, and the heart-wrenching pain of abandonment. One night, in a moment of raw vulnerability, Nymphlotus confided in their mother about their wish to end their life, questioning the existence of a God who could allow such suffering. In response to this desperate plea, a deafening metallic bang echoed from the hallway of their trailer home, a place that always filled Nymphlotus with unease. A vintage metal cake mold, which was hung securely on a nail at the end of the hall, had inexplicably launched itself not forward but sideways through a doorway, covering a distance of 10 feet before crashing onto the carpeted floor. The force of the impact was so intense that it resonated throughout their small home. This was not a simple case of a falling object. The trajectory, the force, the timing, it was as if some unseen entity had deliberately made its presence known. Interestingly, the previous occupant of their trailer home was a woman who had tragically taken her own life. She had left the gas stove on, extinguished the pilot light, and succumbed to asphyxiation. Could it have been her spirit trying to intervene to prevent Nymphlotus from following the same tragic path? Could she have been trying to push them out of the house to save them from a fate similar to hers? It's a chilling thought, isn't it? One can't help but wonder about the unseen forces that might be at play in our lives. Stay tuned as we delve deeper into these mysterious phenomena. As we continue to navigate through the labyrinth of the inexplicable, we find ourselves at a crossroads. Each story, each experience is a piece of a puzzle that seems to grow more complex the more we investigate. Are these occurrences glitches in the matrix, spectral interventions, or merely the intricate workings of our complex minds? These questions linger, stirring the pot of our curiosity, yet remain unanswered. Nymphlodis's story, like many others, leaves us in a state of bewilderment. The unseen entity that made its presence known in such a dramatic fashion, was it a spectral guardian trying to dissuade them from a tragic decision, or was it a mere coincidence, a random act of physics that just happened to occur at that critical moment? What we do know is that these experiences, as chilling as they may be, have a profound impact on those who experience them. They challenge our perception of reality, force us to question the world around us, and often leave us with more questions than answers. As we conclude our journey into the unexplained, we find ourselves standing on the precipice of the unknown, peering into the abyss, and wondering what mysteries it holds. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and remember, reality is often stranger than fiction. Stay curious and don't let the fear of the unknown stop you from delving deeper into the mysteries that surround us.